Hey all, welcome to Parker's Reef. On today's episode, we're going to make a scape out of this Java Reef Rock for a buddy's CADE 1500 Peninsula. Alright, thank you for joining me on another episode of Parker's Reef, and I have to say I'm not overly sure how this one's going to turn out. Aquascaping's not normally my forte. In fact, on my own dream reef tank, I took the liberty of using my good friend Dave from Deer Park Aquarium, his skill set to build my dream reef tank just over behind the camera there, because I find aquascaping is one of those things that if you do it yourself, you're never happy with it, but if someone else builds a scape, you're absolutely pleased. And I've got to say, without diminishing Dave's skill set, he has built no shortage of scapes over the years and knows how to fill a brief very, very well. So I figured maybe it's time for me to have a try at scaping, and when a good reefing buddy popped into Deer Park Aquarium and said that he's got a brand new CADE 1500 Peninsula that he wants to build a scape for, I said, any chance you let me have a crack at it first? There's no obligation. I'll get a couple of boxes of rock, I'll build a scape. If you like it, it's yours. If you don't like it, no sweat whatsoever, because I do know how personal things like aquascapes can be. I'm sure I'll find a home for it elsewhere, and that's kind of what's led me to where we stand today. I've got right in front of me here 2 boxes of assorted rocks from the brand new in Australia anyway, Java Reef Rock. Now, there's a number of reasons why I chose this rock to go for this scape. Of course, apart from the fact that this is brand new, it'll be a good opportunity to showcase it on the channel, but primarily for a few extra features that make it just stand out a little bit against other rock on the market. One of the things I love about it the most is the purging process they put each and every piece through. Now, purging essentially means they put it in a big tub, and I'll put some footage up on screen here somewhere, where they run it through some RO water for up to 7 weeks. They change that water out every 3 days, and essentially what that does, any sort of contaminants that go into the rock in the construction phase are going to leach out of the rock and into that water to be disposed of, which means it's not going to end up in your reef tank, and it's not going to give you some crazy weird algae that you get in the early stages of your reef tank. Now, doesn't mean you're not going to go through an ugly phase, absolutely not, but any of you out there who have used artificial rock in their reef tanks over the last few years will know that some of them can leach some pretty crazy substances which can cause some pretty crazy algae blooms. So fingers crossed that the Java Reef Rock, with that incredibly detailed purging process, are going to avoid the majority of those ugly stages, which would be an absolute bonus. Now, the second reason why I primarily wanted to try out this Java Reef Rock was because of its weight per volume. Now, this rock, the manufacturer claims to be the lightest artificial reef rock on the market. Now, I can't necessarily claim that that's 100% true, because I don't have every single rock on the market here to compare the same volume and the weight, but I can tell you, and we'll have a look when we open up these boxes in a second, because I've already had a quick sneak peek, that just by feel in the hand, this rock is considerably lighter than anything else I've used before. Now, you may wonder why that matters at all, and 2 things spring to my mind when I'm thinking about the weight of artificial rock. First and foremost, you're normally buying this stuff per kilo, whether it be artificial rock or live rock. It's normally per kilo, and I know from experience some pieces you can pick out of a rock tank and put on the scales and be incredibly shocked at just how heavy and therefore how expensive it is. When I pick this rock up, I'm surprised at just how light for the size it is, which ultimately means it's going to save you money. Now, there is one other reason why light rock can be beneficial, and that's because when you finish building your scape, you've ended up with maybe 1 or 2 boxes, or regardless how many boxes or pieces of rock you use, the culmination of all those rocks are going to add up to a pretty hefty amount of weight. Then you're going to grab that hefty amount of weight, lift it up over a very fragile glass box and put it down in there, often in a very awkward position. Now, it doesn't take a lot more explaining to tell you why that would be an incredibly risky and scary time. You obviously don't want to scratch your tank, you don't want to break your tank, you don't want to damage the rock, and you just also don't want to destroy your back trying to lift a very heavy rock scape up over the wall of your tank and down into it. So the lighter the end scape is, I guess the better, just from a OH&S perspective like that. Now, the manufacturer have told me a bunch of other reasons about why this rock is great, mainly around the natural colors of it, how it looks once it's in your tank and in water, the smoothness and porosity of it, which is going to just help it get through cycles and also ensure it's not scratching up your fish. Heaps and heaps of reasons. I'm not going to go into all of those, but I will put the details in the description of the video below. So if you want to find more information on the Java Reef Rock, be sure to check it out there. I think it's time we open up these boxes and I can show you some of the shapes and sizes and pieces I've got to work with. Bear in mind, we've got a CADE 1500 Peninsula to escape here. So it is a 1500 long, so we've got 1.5 meters long, 75 centimeters wide, I guess you would say it, and 60 centimeters high. Now it is a peninsula system, which means I like to build escape a little bit higher at the weir end and basically tailor down to our peninsula end. For a few reasons, the peninsula end is going to be viewable from all angles. The last thing you really want to do is build a big rock scape there, which is going to block your view off. I love looking at the end of a peninsula tank and being able to see the rock scape basically rise up to that weir and cover as much of the weir as possible. But also the challenge with the peninsula is the flow. So we want to try and keep that open end as open as possible because it's not going to look great having a heap of wave makers down there. So the less obstruction by rock work we've got at that end, the better. I've actually gone and set up a little table outside and measured up the size of the CADE 1500 Peninsula. What I'm going to do now is open up these boxes here and get some of this rock work out, which, like I said, I have already had a little sneak peek at. These pieces did come individually wrapped, and I've unwrapped them just so we can have a good look at them now. And you can see we've got some nice sort of branch pieces. We've got some interesting sort of little boulder shape pieces here, some more little interesting branches. It's a good opportunity for me to bring the camera in and show you guys just the sort of the color and the shape and the feel of the rock. But as touched on before, it's ridiculously light. I mean, it's still rock, it's hard. You wouldn't want to bash it against someone's head, but it's as light as a tennis ball. It's going to be great to work with. It's not going to require as much zip ties or putty or things like that. We do still have some big pieces which we can use as bases really to get some good low center of gravity, just to make sure that we've got a good foot for the rock work. But there's some really nice sort of shapes here, some nice interesting sort of little branches and things going on there. Plenty to work with and nice little donuts and things. In fact, the team has sent me a nice little assortment which works quite well. This is an interesting piece. We've got a cool sort of branch there. And then another thing here that I should have probably touched on before, they've also got these little frag rocks, which I might stick a few of these on the scape just to make real easy mounting of frags in future. They're made out of the same material, they've got the same color, same sort of shape. They do have a flat bottom, but of course you can chip away at them if you want. And of course they've got your pretty standard little frag hole on the front there just to put that stem of the tile in. So I might use some of those throughout the scape just to make easy mounting of frags in the future and potentially sort of cover up any sort of little joins or anything that are glaringly obvious in front of the viewer's eye. So they'll come in handy there. I should also touch on my process. In fact, maybe we'll get this rock out and we'll get it out onto the table and I'll go through the process there. But essentially I like to use a BSI super glue. I've got a huge tub of it here. I've got some gloves to make sure I don't get too much in my hands. And then I've got a couple of options here for Instaset. Both are from BSI. This one's the pressurized can and this one's just the standard pump spray bottle. Basically what that does is it instantly sets your super glue. So I like to use no shortage of super glue. I'll sort of sit the rocks where I want them, where they are mostly held by gravity. Then I'll fill the joints up with super glue, hit it with the Instaset. Fingers crossed that should be enough. But if it's not, I do also have some putties here where I can go around and just strengthen up those joints after the fact. So I like to use Aqua, which is a Sally's brand, or of course you can use some of your aquarium specific putties. Both are a two-part putty that you cut in sort of the amount you need, mix it together, which activates it, and then it'll set in something like 12 hours. So the super glue is going to be my weapon of choice to get the ball rolling, and then I'm just going to use some of that putty to smooth up some of those joins and give it a little bit of extra strength where required. But I think it's probably time I mount a little camera right here so you guys can get a first-person perspective. We'll go out and have a look at the table, and we'll go through setting up this aquascape. Let's do it. All right, here we are. This is what 2 boxes of Java Reef Rock looks like once you've unwrapped it all and got it out onto the dog's kennel / UV and chiller holder. You can see there's no shortage of different sizes, shapes, different kinds of pieces. Obviously up this end we've got a couple of the large sort of base pieces. This one in particular is a fairly large sort of plate, and then these ones have got some interesting sort of holes through them. Moving into some of the sort of more medium-sized pieces with a few of those little frag bits and whatnot in there. Coming across into some sort of branches here, and a couple of nice big branching pieces there we can work with either as they are or break them up. And then we've got some pretty cool arches. I really like these. These are very, very angled arch, which is going to make some pretty cool little shapes, sort of connecting a couple of bommies across. I think at this stage, got some more branches up this end. We've got some interesting sort of just little, I guess, ornamental pieces we'll use to just give the shape a bit of a natural twist and whatnot. And then a couple more sort of bigger pieces here, which we can use to really anchor this down. So we've got quite a bit to work with there. My plan is, as you can see, I've got my trusty table out here. I've measured it up. A CADE Peninsula 1500 is a pretty big tank. I've actually measured along here. We've got 1.5 meters of length. I have added in a little extra marking here for the weir, which I'm not 100% sure on the size, but I figured we'll give it a little bit of a wide berth, and that should work pretty well. And our width across here is 75 centimeters is perfect. So as that table stands, that's exactly the size of the CADE, and I've got my rock there, so I figure it's probably time to start stacking. I'll basically just go with a gravity stack at first, and then I'll do some little, I guess, anti-gravity positions at the end once I've got the bulk of the scape in position and glued down. But for starters, I just like to start piling some rocks up and getting a little bit of a general shape and feel to it, and then once I'm happy with pieces, I can lock them in by gluing them down. So no time like the present. I best put the camera down and get to work.
Coming out shining, shining. I can see the stars aligning. Me and you is perfect timing. We just gotta keep on vibing. Yeah, elevate the crowd. Feet lifting off the ground. Shock through a world like wow. Feel it getting stronger now. Trailblazer, rule breaker, new flavor, straight laser, go maker, room shaker, lost in the beat. Make you wanna move. Make you wanna move. Make you wanna move. Make you wanna move. Move. Energy electric, taking us higher.
All right, I'm pretty sure I've got the scape how I want it now. As I touched on in the brief, I wanted to really start down low at this end and sort of reach up to the sky, and I wanted to do that with two separate bommies, which it's a little bit tight in here, but you can see we've got a clear path through there where the two bommies don't touch. Now, of course, you could always join those with a little arch or something later down the track if you wanted to make that one piece, but just for ease of transport and for placing in the tank, I thought we'd make them two separate pieces. Now, I've sort of gone for two sort of legs here, for lack of better words, that will reach down to the front corners of the tank. I have ensured that we've left enough room between the rockwork and the glass on both sides. This piece here could probably angle in a little bit just to give us extra room there. And I have also made sure that I've kept the rockwork as low as possible. I didn't want to go up too high. The tank is only 60 centimeters in height, and this part of the rockscape here, I don't want to go so high that you can't put anything on there because it kind of defeats the purpose. So 60 centimeters does actually come to about here, which I think gives us plenty of room for even the highest point of the rockwork for corals still to grow out. Now, I have got probably the ugliest part of the rockwork back here, which will be up against the weir, well, near the weir anyway, but it still does leave plenty of spots where you can put some small pieces in here, maybe something like a Monty cap down there to sort of grow out and go up onto the weir there. Do need to bear in mind that the CADE does have the dual weir system, so it does have an inlet down here as well as up there, which will ensure that no detritus sort of settles down around here. But if you look from this view here, you can see that I think the vortex or other wave makers will be positioned here and here, and that should give us a nice, good, straight flow down there, just to ensure we're getting plenty of movement at the other end for a peninsula system. Now, obviously, this first bommy here is probably going to be aimed around your higher flow required corals, so your SBS pieces and some types of LPS will be there. And then as we go further down here, we'll move on to LPS and softies. So I really think we'll get some really cool little hammer frags and things all down here, giving nice little bunches of different color and things on there. This rock here can just doesn't have to actually be attached. It can just sit there. It basically just gives the ability to extend that leg out right down to the front edge of the glass there, so you can stick corals on there and keep them off the sand. But I think all in all, it's kind of fit the brief. We've got plenty of swim throughs, plenty of caves. We've got a nice little low light section down here where we can put some things in there and maybe even get some little homes for fish. But you can also just grab one of the leftover pieces of rock like a couple of pieces here. They don't necessarily have to be all attached to the scape. If you wanted something in there, it's easy enough to grab a rock and sort of find half a way to put him and sit him in like that, and then you can stick some extra pieces on there. But I don't know, I'm just sort of getting this ready for gluing, and I think this is the main structure we'll go with. Chances are I'll probably break a couple of these loose pieces up at the end and just stick some bits on, maybe just to give this a little bit more texture. But all in all, I think we're looking pretty good. There's plenty of swim through, plenty of flow through, plenty of spots to mount corals and frags, and I think for a 1.5 meter tank, it's got heaps and heaps of surface area. Although looking from this angle, I could potentially go a little arch or something in there, or I'm not sure. Scape's one of those things, every time you look at it, you think you change your mind, but I think it's really at the point now where I get the glue out, we fill in all of these joints, so wherever two bits of rock are touching, like there for instance, I'll fill that with super glue, then I'll hit that with the contact adhesive or the Instaset so that it sets that super glue instantly. Then I'll do the same there, and then I'll just keep going around all of the joints that I see just to make sure that we get this as much as one piece as possible. Then eventually, if there's any sort of bits that look a little bit ambitious, I'll go over those with some putty, and I think this will be ready to move on to its new home. So I best put this camera down, grab some gloves and some super glue, and start making this one piece. Alright, now just to demonstrate, I'm going to start putting some glue into this area here just to get those bits to combine up. So I've got my BSI Maxi Cure here, and you see I've got the big bottle because I do plan on using a bit of the stuff. And I'm just going to literally start pouring some of that glue into there. Then I'll grab my BSI Instaset. In this instance, I'm going to use the spray one. And then with a combination of the two, I'm going to start working my way around some of these joins here. And get these rocks to start setting together.
Taking us higher, we're in the zone, blazing on fire, flashes of magic, light up the room. I don't think they ready for it, here it comes, boom, boom. Trailblazer, rule breaker, new flavor, straight laser, gold maker, room shaker, lost in the beat, make you wanna move. Make you wanna move. Make you wanna move. Make you wanna move. Move.
Alright, now that I got the super glue in place and a lot of the Instaset, I'm just going to go over a couple of spots that are a little bit weak with a bit of aqua needed, just to give him a little bit of bulk where it needs. Just where you've got like a round point trying to glue up against a solid point like that, you don't get a lot of contact area. So if you put a bit of aqua needed in there, it just gives you a much bigger contact point. So I've got a little bit of aqua needed left, and I've got a bit more of the purple putty. I'm just going to go around the structure now and just fill in a couple of those spots where it needs a little bit more oomph.
Everyone's watching, show them how to move. Everyone's watching, might as well move. Everyone's watching, make them wanna move.
All right, there we are. There is the final scape. I'm just letting the glue dry before I do any further adjustments. I did decide to leave this piece here just completely separate, just to make it easier for transport, and also so down the track, if the end user who has the rock decides they want to remove that piece because they want to treat zoas or something like that, or they just want to mix it up because it is a fairly bulbousy looking shape, and I don't know, you might want to have it out that way more, you might want to have it in more. Leaving it separate gives you a few options, but if you can imagine, this is the Peninsula end. Try to get down at the height you'd be looking at the tank, and you can see the rock just basically, it keeps on going up towards the top of that weir there, which I think should look quite nice. Bearing in mind that the tank is 60 centimeters high, and I measured it out that if we look at the rock work there, the top of the tank actually comes up to about here. So it gives us plenty of room still for corals to go above the rock work there, because we need to bear in mind when we're making a scape like this, this, we have to keep in mind the end application. Now this is going to go into a mixed reef, so we need to make sure that we leave room for corals, and it's more about making surface area for mounting corals. So little things like my OK symbol here are really going to work well, putting SBS frags off here and here and here, and giving you all sorts of areas. Much like over here, we've got all sorts of different angles, different light areas to mount frags and things like that. You can have pieces right down the bottom here, up on there. In fact, you could have a nice little string of things across there and then branching up across, much like we do on the LPS and Softy Rock here. We've got some higher spots which sort of, if you wanted to, you can move this whole bommy back and get it a bit closer to the first bommy, or you can have it separated. Gives you some higher mounting spots, but then we've got plenty of surface area to mount hammers and torches and things like that. In fact, I think a nice torch garden following along there would look pretty cool just on the Peninsula end. But with the camera in hand, you get an opportunity to see up close just the sort of little points that I put in there with some epoxy, just to give it a little bit of extra oomph. I tried to do that in most of the spots where there's good joins like that. Even if it had a good purchase from the super glue, I've just given it a little bit of extra oomph with some putty there, and it does make it a little bit stronger. In fact, I've gone through quite a bit of super glue, so it's quite strong, but I do need to bear in mind that I need to be able to pick this scape up, put it into the car and drive it off to its new home. So all in all, I'm quite happy with the scape. I know scape's one of those things that people have different opinions on what they should do, what they should look like, but I can envision this from all three sides of the peninsula, full of coral, and I think that's ultimately what we're looking for. So hopefully it finds a new home soon. All right, folks, there you have it. I've given the glue about an hour to set, and like I said, I made this piece removable, and apart from that, the Rockscape is now all in one piece, and I've got to say, I'm super impressed with how light this Java Reef Rock is, both for just ease of use, making it easy to glue and things like that. You don't have kilos and kilos hanging off the edge. I did weigh up a piece like this one here, which is a pretty large chunk of rock, and it came up at 0.6 of a kilogram, and this rock retails around about $24 a kilo, so what's that? You're looking at about $16 for that rock, which is super competitively priced. And then, like I said, because it's lightweight, it's going to make it so much easier to literally grab a huge chunk like this. This is a big bommy, fills up half a 1.5 meter scape, and you can literally pick it up as one person, put it into your tank, which is super impressive. I hope the customer or the potential customer for this scape likes what I've built. I tried to make it as flow through as possible, as modular as possible, and still really work with that difficult to achieve peninsula scape, which is always a challenge, but I think it turned out great. And if you want to find out more information about Java Reef Rock, be sure to hit up the details in the description below, because it's a new rock on the Australian market, and I've been thoroughly impressed. So huge shout out to the team from Java Reef Rock. Other than that, guys, I think I might load this scape up into the car and take it up to the shop, show the customer and see whether they like it, and if not, maybe let me know if you're interested in a scape like this for your tank. Obviously, this has probably been designed really to go as, I was going to say 2 pieces, but 3 really. But if you're looking for something like this and my other potential buyer falls through, let me know, because I've got a scape that I don't need, that I'll need to find a home for. So I guess I'll leave it at that. If you've got any questions, comments, feedback, anything like that at all, pop it in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. And last but not least, if you're yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. We are so close to hitting the 25,000 subscriber mark, which is totally ridiculous. So if you wanted to jump on board, it costs you no money at all, takes 2 seconds of your time, I'd highly appreciate it. Anyway, guys, I've done enough playing outside today. Time to wrap things up. Till next time, stay safe, keep reefing. Cheers, bye.